Bob Seeley.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I won't take up too much of your time. I want to thank my honourable friends from Hastings and Rye and Darlington for organising and securing this debate. It's actually a very important one, and I'm hugely grateful that they've done it. And I think it's very clear from the amount of people who've taken part in this debate, the affection that hospices hold, not only in our hearts but also the hearts of our constituents. And I have great respect for that, both on the Isle of Wight and throughout the country. And clearly they comfort people in times of extraordinary difficulty and death, not only for those people who are dying, but also for their families. These are very difficult times, and hospices provide both succour and professional support, and actually probably above all love and comfort. On the island we have the Mountbatten Hospice, and I know that my honourable friend from Eastleigh spoke earlier about the Mountbatten Hospice, and I want to develop some of the points that he makes and echo them. So we have the Mountbatten Hospice in Newport. It is one of our most cherished institutions on the island. I thank all those people. I'm going to have a few thank yous now. I want to thank firstly all the people who work there in our Mountbatten Hospice and support it for the fantastic work they do caring for people on the Isle of Wight. And I also want to pay special tribute to the head of our hospice, Nigel Hartley, one of the most impressive people we have on the island, and actually one of my favourite islanders. He was a concert pianist before he started looking after people in the London Lighthouse Clinic in the relatively early days of the AIDS pandemic. And he learnt to care for people at that time before moving eventually to the island and bringing a unique sense of occasionally eccentric but organised, highly competent and very loving leadership to that institution. And I think we are hugely lucky on the island to have somebody like Nigel. On their behalf, I want to raise just a few issues and get some clarity from the Minister. And I know I'm not the only one saying this, but for backbenchers, there's clearly strength in numbers. And many of the issues that I have are issues that have been raised as well, but I want to put them on the record. I don't want the NHS to take over hospices. We need to respect the charitable status of our hospices, because it's something that gives them strength. They are so directly related and engaged in our communities. But we do need the NHS to pay its way in relation to our hospices. And in the last 2 years, Mountbatten on the Isle of Wight and indeed in Eastleigh, the Mountbatten Hospice, the two of them, have had cash increases from the NHS of under 2%, if I understand correctly the figures, but also under 3%. Their costs have gone up much higher. We are putting our hospices under very considerable financial pressure. So we're having to dig deeper into fundraising, or we're having to make cuts or look at ways of making cuts. This is not acceptable. We are not asking for the NHS to step in, but we are asking for the NHS to pay its way, and if it is using the hospices, to give them sufficient funding, because otherwise the burden of looking after the NHS responsibilities, for want of a better term, is falling very heavily on people, whether it's in folks in Eastleigh, in my honourable friend's constituency, or indeed on the island. And in fact, we have our major fundraising for the Isle of Wight, for the Isle of Wight Hospice, for the Mountbatten Hospice on the 12th of May. Walk the Wight, fantastic event. Last year it raised £460,000. But running a hospice is expensive. And when you're dealing with inflation, below inflation increases from our ICB, that is problematic. And I would raise one other issue as well from our ICB. My right honourable friend, the member for Eastleigh, and I had two conversations with the ICB last week. One just on the Isle of Wight Hospice and the Eastleigh Hospice, Mountbatten Hospice. And one was a shared conversation with Hampshire and Hampshire colleagues and myself, talking about the work of the ICB. It's in special measures. We were told that somehow this was a very good thing, that it was in special measures, but clearly there is pressure on their expenditure, there is pressure on their budgets, and actually there's pressure on their, how shall we say, management decisions in relation to their budget. And what I'm really concerned about is that when you have ICBs in special measures, hospices, cutting funding to hospices is seen as a quick win, as opposed to acute services, which are hugely expensive, which we know, but also potentially to primary care as well. And yet, effective spending in primary care actually eases pressure on acute services, but also effective spending on hospices paying their way. So I'm not talking about taking over the system, but actually giving a little bit more funding, near inflation increases for those hospices, enables the hospices to perform a hugely, hugely important moral duty, medical duty, but also a duty to those people, not only who are dying, but also the families in their support of them, not only in the hospice, but increasingly now for my Mountbatten Hospice, and I suspect it's the same for the Honourable Member for Eastleigh, but actually looking after people as they near death in their own homes. So on behalf of my hospice, I'm asking, please, can we make sure the ICB that covers Hampshire and the Isle of Wight is doing its job effectively, doing its job properly, because I think it is fair to say, without being ungenerous towards these people, some of us have our concerns, and some of us have real concerns about some of the decisions being made. So can we make sure the ICB is managing its affairs well, but in doing so is also giving the support to the hospices, both in Eastleigh but also in Newport and the Isle of Wight, which our hospice, the Mountbatten Hospice, so badly needs. Thank you.